Yeah, thank you. Welcome.
Okay, guys. So yesterday we discussed it regarding my coin and trust me coin. Okay. So now we'll start with the next step. So just give me a moment. I'll share the screen. Okay, one second. Okay. So I hope now you are able to see my screen. Okay. So, okay, one sec. Yeah, recap. Okay, sure. So if you remember, okay, if you remember, so I discussed it regarding my coin, right? Where I used only the cryptography concepts of public key, private key infrastructure, hashing, and digital signature, right? And then what can go wrong with my coin? The double spending problem. Why? Because there is no transaction history. Okay, it is just transfer of my coins happening again and again somewhere. So because there is no transaction history, people are unable to check whether that particular digital currency is double spended again and again or not. Okay, so that is when, in order to resolve this double spending problem, we want to solve it in two steps. One is use distributed computing, and then applying game theory to create a secured distributed computing. Okay, so how to, so anyways, we started with trust me coin, where we will slowly start introducing distributed computing along with cryptography. And my coin plus distributed computing brings trust me coin. Okay, so what are the properties of trust me coin? Publishing the transaction history, right? If all coins which you are spending, if it is person to person transactions, okay, there won't be any monitoring, right? So you may double spend it. So that is why in trust me coin you will be publishing the transaction history. And before publishing a transaction, I need to validate it. Who need to validate it? Me, because it is trust me coin. So I will be validating. I am the one who create the coins, and I am the one who will validate the transactions also. But if you look at my coin, the previous coin which I discussed, I will be creating the transactions, but I won't validate the transactions. Okay. That is what is creating the double spending problem. So here I will start publishing the transaction history, where I will put a transaction ID for every transaction happening on my coin. Okay, and so on. So how does this help? Before validating a transaction, I will check whether those coins are spent previously or not. Whether at present those digital coins are owned by that person or not. So that is the only benefit which is added with Trust Me coin. So there are two types of transactions which we discussed yesterday, where in one transaction new coins will be created and every coin is valid because I signed them. And the other type of transaction is payment. So of course here it is not coin created, it is coin transacted. Okay, so a little correction. So here in 6th 7th transaction we are trying to call 53 of 0 1 and 2 as input coin IDs, and it is being spent. So when are these transactions valid? Only when consumed coins are valid, not already consumed, total input equal to total output, and all consumed coin owners have signed it. So if you look at these things, now because there is a validation happening before transfer, it is not because you own them previously you can spend now, right? You have already spent, and if you want to double spend, that won't be valid because there is a validation check happening in Trust Me coin. Now let's imagine what is the problem, a potential problem with Trust Me coin. Trust itself is the problem. Trust Me coin is robust or foolproof or secured only if you trust me. Now imagine I have a friend of mine. I have created some coins, and what I did is all my friends' transactions, even if he double spended it, I am allowing it. I'm just validating the transaction. I'm publishing the transaction history. Of course, there will be anyone here. The transaction history which I'm creating is only visible for the transaction that particular user creates. This is not a open database because transaction history is stored in my central server and I am the one who gives access to view the transaction data. So what I will do, I have a friend of me, I create coins, and even if he double spends the same coins again and again, whoever views that particular transaction of my friend and him, they will see the transaction is valid. It is possible, right? So trusting on me is the biggest challenge with Trust Me coin. So as long as people trust me, the value of the coin will be good. The moment there is a discrepancy saying, hey, he is supporting some people and he is not supporting, he is doing some manipulation, then Trust on Me goes off, right? And the value or the people who use Trust Me coin will not further use it, right? Because double spending means you can spend the same amount again and again. That means it is like you having infinite money. Yesterday I told you the fundamental principle of economics says that if something is infinite, the value is almost zero. So the more abundant a resource is, the value is less. So that is why what I thought, oh, okay, don't put trust on me. Okay. So I will not maintain a central server to store my transaction history. Okay. I will join with some other community of people who are willing to maintain a node to my network, and I want to decentralize the trust on me. And that is where I thought, okay, along with cryptography I want to use distributed computing also. So before going to distributed computing, application of distributed computing, let's see some of the features of distributed computing. So last time we discussed it, like decentralization, what are the benefits and all, but we didn't discuss how the technical aspects of it or technical side of the decentralization or distributed computing. Now let's look at that. First of all these decentralized systems who want to store the transaction history along with me should communicate with each other, right? Because all the coins or all the transactions will not hit my central server now. Some transactions will hit my server, some transaction may hit other server, okay, or some other transactions might hit some other server in the network. So in this distributed network, there should be a mechanism for all users to communicate with each other. But the point is, no node should know who is communicating with it, and no node should know who is sending or who is receiving. Because the moment I know whom I am sending, I will see that, oh, okay, I have already sent a wrong message to this person. I will also send wrong message to all other persons. So in order to avoid that, the responsibility to send the messages is protocol driven in distributed network. And for that, there is a distributed algorithmic solution which is leveraged by Satoshi Nakamoto when he is trying to design a decentralized plus cryptography based digital currency. So essentially the distribution helps in improving security. Even perfect security is achievable in some cases. And the key ingredient is secret sharing. I will explain you what secret sharing is. A perfectly secure communication is possible when the sender shares the message using secret sharing and sends the shares to receiver along different paths. So in blockchain, okay, till now we have not yet started blockchain, right? Sorry. So in distributed network, there is a mechanism to share a message not as a whole, like in central server, because there are other nodes also, right? So because there are other nodes in the network and I am connected with every other node, so if I want to send some information, I can share it in bits and pieces. So just give me a moment, I will get my slate. I'll draw you, I'll pictorially represent this for better understanding. I hope you are able to see the screen. Okay. Now, okay, no node should know why it is communicating. Yeah, I'll come to that. See, in my coin, no transaction history. In TrustMe coin, there is transaction history, but it is maintained on central server. Okay, so all transactions. Okay, but now, and here I used only cryptography. But now I want to use cryptography plus distributed computing. So for that purpose, I asked some other community members. Okay, I don't want to maintain and I don't want to sign always. I don't want to calculate hash always, because I want to decentralize trust on me, so that irrespective of whether I am available or not, irrespective of there is a central trusted third party, I want the currency to run. So for that purpose, I want to create a distributed network of servers or nodes. And I told you already, a decentralized network, a peer-to-peer network, every node can communicate with every other node. Okay, I hope everything has connection with every other node. Okay, now there is a users, user 1, user 2, user 3. These three are in different locations. Now in TrustMe coin, all these transactions are hitting to central server and all validations are happening from central server. So we discussed this already when I explained you supply chain example in real time, but still I'm repeating it more on the currency side. Okay, now there is user 1 who will hit this system. User 2 request will hit this system. Why request will hit different systems? Because under this distributed network, of course, TCP/IP protocol, on top of TCP/IP protocol, decentralized network protocol will act. So two protocols will act. So underlying it is internet only. So what is the important property of TCP/IP? It will have routing. Okay, it will have routing such a way that the request will reach to the nearest server. So in a decentralized network, there are multiple servers or nodes, and a transaction will try to reach and hit the nearest server. But because this is distributed and decentralized, I mean decentralization only, distributed network or decentralization, everyone should have same information. If everyone should have same information, last time I told you, there shouldn't be some node which is defining something, but there should be a protocol. And this protocol is using secret sharing. Why? Because now there is, imagine there is node 1 and there is 2, 3, 4 and 5. Okay, so secret sharing happens in two ways. One is sender wise and receiver wise also. That means if a sender wants to send this transaction data, now imagine transaction 1. Now this transaction data will be split into pieces. One piece, so imagine he wants to send to 3 at this instant. Okay, he need to send to 2, he should send to 5 and 4 also. But imagine at this point of time, he wanted to send it to 3. What will he do? He will send a piece through 2 to 3. He will send another piece through 5, through 4, and then 3. He will send another piece to 4 and through 4 to 3. So like that, all pieces of information is shared through multiple paths. And what will 3 do? 3, the protocol itself, the algorithm itself will club these 3 paths, 3 parts. Okay, and then it will create the whole transaction data. And this is one best example for this type of file sharing is torrents. Even in torrents, you don't download a file from central server. You will be getting pieces of files from multiple other peers. And once you have all the pieces within you, you will club them up and you will get the whole file. Right? So similarly, in blockchain, the distributed, for secured communication, secret sharing mechanism is used. So the sender shares the messages using secret sharing. And here in decentralized network protocol, a node can't identify other node with IP address. There is no concept like that. Each node identifies other node based on nothing. So there is no direct communication with other node in blockchain. It is protocol which knows who is the sender, what is his public address, who is the receiver, what is his public address, whether all the information pieces were consolidated correct or not. So such kind of secret sharing mechanism is used in decentralized network. So that is called as oblivious transfer. Okay, I will discuss that in next slides. Okay, now what are we trying to do by secret sharing? The data in each memory register of the secured virtual server is secret shared and stored across several nodes in the network. Okay, 1 second, there is some question. Okay, what if one path fails and one piece is not? See, that is a general mechanism, right? The protocol takes care. Okay, sir, you said that no code should know who is communicating with it. Okay, no node. Okay, why is it so? It is only for the purpose of secret sharing. Okay, because if I know to whom I am sharing, then I might manipulate, and I will send the same manipulated transaction with everyone in order to avoid any manipulation. Okay, so so the protocol chooses the best shortest paths. It will make sure that integrity is maintained and the same information is shared across the stakeholders. Okay, and in order to combine, yes, I mean those mechanisms are always well defined and designed. Even in torrents, if some of the seed files get lost, you can't build the main file. Okay, yeah, of course, if one path fails, the other path is chosen, because we know in decentralization it is fault tolerant. Why is it fault tolerant? Why is it resilient? Because even if one node goes off, or one node is down, or one node denies the service, the network will path other route to communicate. Okay, and usually virtual machines are used. Okay, the concept of virtualization is used. So I will discuss the concept of virtualization when I discuss Ethereum. Okay, so at this point of time, you need to understand that decentralization or distributed algorithm has a property of secret sharing. Okay, now second benefit of decentralization or distributed computing is secure edition protocol. A local edition entails global edition. That means once a node broadcasts some data, it will reach to everyone in multiple paths, in multiple pieces, but still it will reach to all other nodes. So a node need not communicate with each node individually. Just split up the pieces, submit, broadcast. That's it. The algorithm will take care to see that each piece will reach to all nodes in bits and pieces. Okay, so that is why it is called as local edition entails global edition. For example, right, in your day-to-day communication, IT communication system, a sender will send some message. After receiving all message, there will be a acknowledgement handshake mechanism. Okay, handshake mechanism, and then with handshake the sender will get confirmation, and then he will send the next piece of message, and so on. So this kind of handshake mechanism and these kind of bilateral transactions can be eliminated. What is meaning of bilateral? I send it, then I will ask, oh, you received? Then the receiver will say, yes, I received. This thing can be eliminated because protocol is taking care of it. And this technically is called as oblivious transfer. So if you want to further understand how secret sharing works, how the decentralization or distributed networks can facilitate oblivious transfer, go and explore online. There is a lot of algorithms which support oblivious transfer. Okay, so what is a oblivious transfer? There is a sender S and he has a message. He has divided that into pieces like B1, B2, B2, B3 and BK. Okay, and he will be sending that information, broadcasting that information on a public channel, because there are many other nodes which are connected to the same channel, I mean same network, right? So R should be able to know BI without revealing I to S. This is from receiver perspective. So sender will not know whom he is sending. Now, receiver also will not know which piece he is getting from which node. So both the ways it is secret. Okay, I see if some information is missing, if a node is unable to reconstruct the transaction data, okay, the protocol will know it and protocol will arrange it, facilitate it. Okay, so missing pieces and all is taken care by protocol. Then how remaining nodes will get all shares? Receiver only gets all the shares. No, every node is a receiver. What happens? A piece is broadcasted to one, and that piece is broadcasted by that node to other nodes. So that way, all nodes will be transacting again and again. See, that is what is called as broadcasting. So at a given point of time, some node will broadcast. Okay, so okay, is it clear? Now, so oblivious transfer is secretive in two ways. R should be able to know BI. He will know only the message piece, but he will not know who the I is without revealing I to S. So the sender doesn't know which piece he has sent to R. And S should be able to send BI to R without revealing B, J not equal to I. That means without revealing which part he is sending. Now with this secret sharing, the point is here, the situation is, it is not me only who is maintaining this, but so in Trust Me coin, what is happening? It is me who is maintaining the transaction data, but here there are multiple nodes which are maintaining the data. And how do these nodes communicate? Through oblivious transfer and secret sharing, which is driven by a protocol and algorithm. So every node will try to put exact information, because if he wants to manipulate, it should take support of some other node, but it doesn't know to which node it is sending, to which and which piece it is sending. So this way decentralization happens. Now with this, what is happening? I am trying to simulate trust. So simulated Trust Me coin. Why I am using the word simulation? Because by using the protocol, I am trying to create a simulation of trust. So I am removing trust on single node to the protocol along with other nodes in the network. That is why it is called as simulated Trust Me coin. So what happens with simulated Trust Me coin? I am decentralizing the trust on me by simulating a trusted third party. So till now in my coin and Trust Me coin, I am acting as the trusted third party. But now a protocol is simulating. And I'm sure most of you did some simulation projects in your life, in your career, in your academics. What is a simulation project? So simulation is nothing but you are trying to implement a reality in system, right? Similarly, here you are trying to create or simulate a trusted third party by using decentralization and cryptography. And now so I hope now you got how the publishing of a transaction happened on all the nodes. Okay, now here comes the next question. Who should sign it? In Trust Me coin, I used to sign. In decentralization, I could simulate, but who should sign the transactions? Even though all are maintaining the same copy of the data, there should be someone who should validate a transaction. Then only user will get the confirmation. And that is when the game theory concept is added. And this is how I'm trying to connect all the dots, which we discussed already. So I'm trying to simplify by game theory by incentivizing the honesty. So the blockchain, now comes the blockchain. Why? Cryptography alone is not blockchain. Cryptography plus decentralized networks is not blockchain. But what is blockchain? Cryptography plus decentralized network plus game theory. So what is a blockchain approach? Publish the transaction history. Anyone who is randomly picked can append a new pool of transactions which happened on the network. Not only me, as in Trust Me Coin. Here, anyone who is randomly picked can append the new set of transactions which happened in that particular time slot. And I hope now you might understood why the concept of block, why transactions are being pooled. Because if the responsibility of validating transactions with only one node, then all the transactions for indefinite time can be validated by one server only. But here, because there are multiple nodes on the network, and in a given time slot, one node is taking responsibility to validate the transactions, the concept of block is created. Okay, and I hope now you might have realized why this block is being created, why a time slot is coming into picture, because each node is distributing the responsibility to validate the transaction each time, and all double spends are detected because the transaction history is published, and every time a transaction is being validated by the nodes in the network, it will check whether those coins are consumed already in previous transactions or not. And because there is no centralized authority to correct it, the blockchain network detects and prevents it. And blockchain is well known for preventive measure for fraud to happen. It will prevent frauds to happen. And present centralized systems, it will allow frauds to happen, but at the time of auditing, things come out. At the time of some checks, things come out. But in blockchain, the fraud or double spending is prevented altogether from happening itself. There is no need of correcting it. And all the peers agree on the correct chain. So even though one node is validating the transactions and calculating the hash and signing it, but still he will broadcast that block to all the nodes, and only after all nodes validate them, then only they agree upon the correct chain, the block is added. Okay, so I hope, yeah, so I think there are some questions coming up. 1 second. So is there a possibility of a transaction be validated and placed in more than one block? No, that is not possible, right? Because once a transaction becomes a part of a block, okay, the transaction hash is already calculated. Okay, now when the same transaction is being validated again by the blocks, they will be broadcasting it, right? So it will calculate the hash of that particular transaction and check if the same hash is there in previous blocks. So the probability of a transaction getting validated in new block is almost impossible. Okay, yeah. And then how are data pieces rearranged? I think that is again protocol driven. Okay, so don't worry on the pieces getting missed, pieces getting not arranged, pieces getting rearranged. See, of course, like even in our TCP/IP protocol, there is header, footer, and packets, and each packet will have unique identifier to be appended, right? So similarly, there is some mechanism used by protocol. At the end of the day, your understanding should be to the level of what is happening. Okay, how is it happening? If you want to build your own protocol, if you want to design a new consensus mechanism, if you want to design a new algorithm together, then deep dive. But here the main point of the program, this 40-hour program, is to make you understand how blockchain works and how to use existing blockchains to build an application. Okay, so don't worry much on the how that happens, how oblivious transfer happens, how the pieces get appended. Okay, I don't think that is of much importance at this point of time. Okay. So what is the longest? So how the longest chain? Okay, how the peers agree on the correct chain? The longest chain is deemed to be correct. Appending to the longest chain is rewarded. Appending elsewhere is penalized. So what is this longest chain? We'll understand. Okay, we will understand this when I discuss Bitcoin in coming slides. Okay, but at this point of time, does block contains all the transactions or single transaction? A block contains a set of transactions which happened in a particular time slot. Okay, so every next time slot there will be new transactions happening on the network and they will be pooled as a block. So block is not one transaction, or block is not all transactions on the network. It is set of transactions in a particular time slot. Okay, what if other node in the network contain all pieces of information before receiver gets the info? It will reject it. That's it. It will not consider it. See, today, say for example, let's take, I have sent a email on a internet to you specifically. Okay, Lakshmi Tanuja. Imagine I have sent a email to you. And when I sent an email to you, I am using a public infrastructure. What is the public infrastructure I am using? Internet. Who owns internet? No one, right? Everyone who is using internet, who is maintaining the servers, internet service providers, they own only the infrastructure. Internet is not owned by any single person. So what happens is, when I send a mail to you, even though it is on the network, the packets might be reaching to different systems also in between. But the systems will reject the packets which are not addressed to them. So similarly, even in decentralized network also, if some packets are repeatedly getting broadcasted and reaching you, you will ignore them because you have them already. Okay, so that efficiency mechanism is there. It is not like everyone broadcasting continuously infinitely, nothing like that. As soon as every node in the network has that information, then no node will broadcast it. So any information coming to it, if it has already, it will not broadcast. So the protocol will take care that a node receives information many times maybe, but broadcasts only one time. Okay, so Lakshmi Tanuja, is it clear? Okay, good. So what is this longest chain? And so I told you, adding a block is rewarded. You will get some currency, cryptocurrencies or new currencies, and appending elsewhere is penalized. So what is this? We will understand it when I discuss Bitcoin. So I will start with Bitcoin soon. So that's all. So proof of work. This is where random selection by giving a cryptographic hash puzzle. So I think now I am connecting the dots. Last time I just explained the terminology. I explained individual concepts, but now you should be able to correlate them and understand all the nodes in the network to be chosen randomly. A cryptographic hash puzzle is given, right? and every node in the network will try to solve the cryptographic hash puzzle. So if it takes some minimum effort or cost to add a new block, there is a penalty if your efforts are not a part of agreement. I think I discussed this when I discussed game theory. I need not go much deeper again. So if you are compensated for the efforts, there is a reward. If and only if your transaction is in the longest chain. What is this longest chain? I'll explain. Okay. And if the effort is a hash puzzle, then none can keep winning, because at a given point of time, no one knows which node will solve the puzzle. Okay. So that is so random. So what is the summary of this particular presentation? Crypto takes us to MyCoin. Crypto and distributed computing takes us to simulated trust coin. But crypto, distributed computing and game theory creates blockchain. Okay. So I hope you understood this. And let me show you one more thing. I think, I don't know if I discussed this or not. See, in nature, in our day-to-day economics also, in our day-to-day life, yeah, I discussed this, right? RBI. When I said the initial discussion, I started with trust. Only when I trust, there is value. Only when there is value, lot of people will start using it. If there is no trust, will people value it? In US, Indian rupee is not trusted. That is why it is not valuable. That is why people don't use it. But for the first time in blockchain, trust is created because there are more number of nodes in the network. As size of the number of nodes in the network increases, trust on the network increases, value increases, more people start using, and then trust. So when a currency is created by general public, there is no trust, right? Even though it is a blockchain network, there is no trust. Do you know the value of Bitcoin in 2009? Zero. 2010, few cents. And 2011, 0.3 cents, 0.4 cents, it started touching dollar. And so on and so forth. Now a value of Bitcoin is $12,000 nearly. And why such huge value has come? Because as more nodes in the network got added, the robustness of the currency got increased, trust on the currency got increased, and people started valuing it, they started buying it, and so on. So for the first time in the human history, without a trusted third party, without a central bank issuing a currency, technology could become a parameter or a simulated trusted third party. And as more people started using it, more trust comes in. Okay. So this is something which is again at the crux of understanding blockchain. In blockchain, when you create a cryptocurrency, initially the value is almost zero. People don't trust it because the number of nodes are less, the value is also less. But as more size, as the nodes get increased, as more coins get circulated, as more people use it, trust comes, value comes, nodes increase, trust comes. Okay. So this is what you should understand at a conceptual level. Okay. So okay, so I hope you understood this. So I'll give you a couple of minutes, 1 or 2. If you have any questions on this, you can ask. See, simulated trust me coin, it's not simulated coin. Simulated, it is also a digital currency where trust is not only on me. Okay. What is hash puzzle? I'll explain you. Okay. Uh, Quick recap. Okay. Sure. What did we discuss in this presentation is before creation of Bitcoin, how would the one who created cryptocurrency might have thought and why they have chosen three technologies and combining them. That is the context with which we started. So initially, only by using cryptography concepts, we tried to create a coin and we gave a dummy name, MyCoin. But only using cryptography is not making the currency, the decentralized currency better or digital currency better. Why? Because MyCoin has problem of double spending. Then we try to understand why don't we use some more technology aspect, and the person has chosen decentralized networks. So cryptography plus decentralized network created a currency and we gave a dummy name called as simulated trust me coin. Okay. And then multiple nodes started validating the transactions. But who should be selected? Why should they maintain the node? So for that purpose, game theory is used so that there will be a puzzle given by the protocol every time. Only one node will solve it. That node will add the block and it will get reward. That way, all the nodes in the network will maintain the blockchain. And whatever block is added to the longest chain is considered to be correct. Whatever block added to the somewhere else is considered to be fault. So even if you solve the puzzle but you validated wrong transactions as right, you won't be able to add the block to the network because all other nodes will reject it. So not getting a reward is also a penalty, right? So that is how game theory is used in blockchain. Okay, what is the reward a node gets? New coins. Okay, so now I will explain you how Bitcoin works by using these concepts. Okay, and I will help you understand how, what is this longest chain? What is this? Okay, who will create the block? Yeah, a node. A node will create the block. Okay, so give me a moment. I'll explain you that. Okay. Yeah. So Monish, if money transfers from one wallet to another wallet, how will one get rewarded? No one gets rewarded for. Okay. Okay. What is the users? Who are the users that send transactions to nodes? Okay. Yeah. So I think, see, these are the common questions. At this point of time, these are the definite questions which one would have. Okay. So now we will start discussing Bitcoin. Okay. And then we'll say, okay, okay, don't mix smart contract yet. We will discuss smart contracts at the time of Ethereum. Okay. Type of transaction, how to add block. Yeah, I'll come to that. I'll come to everything. As a result of hash puzzle is random node will get a chance to add. Okay, so will some of the nodes be starving for years? Yes. Yes, of course. How exactly can one solve a puzzle? It is solved by the node itself. Okay, it is not by human. So what is a puzzle? I'll explain you what exactly a puzzle is. Okay, good. I mean, it's good that you are asking valid questions, and of course that is what will get cleared. Okay, now see, first of all, so I will come, see, I got all your questions, and now I will come step by step asking the questions which you asked in a sequential order, and I will answer them step by step. Okay, now first of all, Bitcoin. Okay, Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency or a digital currency. Who is maintaining it? Public network of nodes. Okay, now the first question you should ask is, for maintaining a node, what should one have? Or the one who created first node, what did he do? What exactly is this? Okay, so the first question you need to ask is that. And how can one create Bitcoins? So will the owner create it, or who will create the new coins? And how many coins get created? Who will sell them first? For users to transact, there should be some coins first, right? For some coins to be created, there should be some nodes first, right? So now I'll explain you Bitcoin on how it was set up over a period of time and how it grown. Okay, so in this, slowly try to understand this. Okay, initially Bitcoin is nothing but a protocol, a client application with a wallet. So every node will have these three things. So what is this protocol? So a node will have a protocol, right? What protocol? Bitcoin protocol. And what is this client application? You know, right? In order to communicate with internet, what is the basic application you need to download? Browser. So similarly, every node should download a client application first. They need to execute this client application, and then only they will connect to some port. Okay, that port, and the protocol name is Ghost protocol. So Ghost protocol is used in Bitcoin. Don't worry, Ghost is not the real Ghost. This Ghost protocol, the word Ghost is coming up because it is secret in nature, right? I told you already, secretive way of sharing the information. So that is why it is called as Ghost protocol. And every node will have a wallet. Now imagine this is the first node. It just got created. And in protocol, there is a rule that every 10 minutes, a block should be added. What is the rule? Every 10 minutes, a block should be added. Who should add the block? The one who solves hash puzzle. Because there is only one node in the network at this point of time, and the protocol decides the difficulty of puzzle. What will it decide? The protocol will decide the difficulty of hash puzzle. If there are more number of nodes, the difficulty of hash puzzle will increase so that it will be solved in 10 minutes. So protocol will make sure that at least on average 10 minutes here and there, the puzzle should be solved. A block should be added. And for every block added, new coins should be generated and given as a reward. To whom? To the node which solved puzzle. I'm repeating it again. The node has a client application which will be executed, then it will connect to a port of Ghost protocol. There is no blockchain yet because this is first node. So the first block is generated. Who will be solving the puzzle? Because there is only one node, this node will solve. What is hash puzzle? How it is solved, we'll discuss later. Okay, let's not complicate at this point of time. So first 10 minutes happened. The first block will get added. What is the first block? Genesis block. What are the transactions within this? 0 transactions. See, the coins are not yet printed. There is no coins in the network because this is the first node. And the protocol defined a rule that new coins should be generated only when node solves a puzzle, and it should be given as a reward. Now, as we are discussing Bitcoin protocol says that every new block, 50 Bitcoins should be created. How many? 50 Bitcoins. And there is also a rule that the total circulation is only 21 million Bitcoins. So the protocol is designed such a way that there will be only 21 million Bitcoins. Every time a new Bitcoin is created, a coin ID, it gets a unique coin ID. So that means there is possibility of only 21 million Bitcoins. If RBI is printing currency, it will print as much as what it requires by maintaining a gold reserve. But because this is a decentralized currency, who should decide how many coins should be generated? Protocol. And Bitcoin is designed like this. Now, in order to see, now 50 Bitcoins, is it 50 Bitcoins till 21 million comes? No. After every 210,000 blocks, the block reward gets halved. So for every new block added after 210,000 blocks, 25 Bitcoins get generated for every new block. And after that, 12.25. 12.5. After that, 6.25 and so on. Like that, 21 million BTCs should be there. After 21 million BTC, there won't be new coins created by the protocol. Why is this done? Because as supply decreases, demand increases, value increases. So that is how the one who created Bitcoin protocol defined how the new coins should be minted. So every time a node is solving a puzzle, adding a block, new coins are created. That is why it is called as miner. Why a node is called as miner? Imagine gold miner. What does a gold miner do? He will mine the soil, he will get the gold pieces, and he creates new ounce of gold. Not creating, but he is generating new ounce of gold. Similarly, every miner solving a puzzle and adding a block is creating new coins. I understand. Good. So for first node, who solved it? The node itself. So who will get this 50 BTC? The wallet of this node. So every node has a wallet, and each wallet has a public and private key. Who has this private key? The person who is maintaining this node will create this private key. I will created. Okay, now you got it right. So any question? Okay, so there are a couple of questions. I'll answer them. Yeah. What is malicious? So there are, those are also cryptographic hash generators. Example of puzzle. Come on here. I told you already. I'll discuss about puzzle later. What is a malicious node? Harmful or not? Can we spend that bitcoins now? 1 second, 1 second. I will explain. Okay, hold on, hold on. So the reward for Genesis block is 50 bitcoins. Yes. Okay. Can the protocol change? No. Once protocol is there, that's it. All the nodes in the network, if they want to update, yes. But one node updating a protocol, not possible. Shivakumar will discuss the real value, the fiat currency and Bitcoin, how they are linked, what is the value, all those things later. Okay. So it is free money for node who solves the puzzle. Why free money? You bought a node, you have powered it up, you connected it to internet, and the computer did some computations, and then it solved the puzzle. So it has done a work, but it is not the person who did the work, but it is the computer who did the work. Yes, bitcoins also exist in fractions. Yes, there is a denomination. What does every node do with this? Okay. Miner is nothing but, every node is a miner. Why is it called as miner? Because it is creating new coins. Every time it solves a puzzle, it is creating new coins from the protocol. See, earth has gold. Now the person who is mining is removing the gold pieces and he is removing it. So he is doing some work. Similarly, in Bitcoin network, the computers or the nodes are doing some hash puzzle. They are doing some work to solve a puzzle. And for their work, they get new coins. Okay. Yes. Did Satoshi Nakamoto own all the coins initially? Yes. He has 2 million Bitcoins till now, even now. After some time, he didn't do any transactions. Okay. No, GPay is not, see, GPay is based on fiat currency. GPay is linked to your bank. It is not connected to any decentralized network. Okay. How the ownership of changes? Simple. This person, by signing, so now imagine there is a user. Okay. Now there are two types of users on Bitcoin network. One is node, who maintains a system, who maintains the node, who solves the puzzles, who participate as a miner. There is other user who is user. And what does user have? Only wallet. That's it. There are banks. example as nodes. There are users, citizens, examples as users. Will I, so RBI prints notes. Will you as a citizen print notes? No, right? So in Bitcoin, the nodes will be mining the new coins, validating the transactions. But there are users who are just doing the transactions. So user has only wallet, and this wallet also has public key and private key. So what happened is, initially in Bitcoin network, some blocks were added continuously, so on, without transactions. No transactions inside. Just solving the puzzle, adding a block, dummy block, empty block. Okay. And added. After some time, what happened? He could create a community of people, and they started maintaining the nodes. Node 2, node 3. Okay, slowly people see, because this is open source, anyone can node. See, because Bitcoin is a public blockchain, anyone can maintain the node, anyone can download the client application, and they can participate. So there are some early tech enthusiasts, engineers, okay, who know the value of these things. So someone said, right, Bitcoin is free money. Sorry, you are maintaining a computer, and computer is doing work, and it is waiting for every 10 minutes to get some reward. So the people who thought Bitcoin as a dummy currency, free money and all, they didn't maintain node. But people who understood protocol and the circulation, the logic behind the protocol, they started maintaining the nodes. And these people, these nodes also has wallets. But what happened, as protocol has more number of nodes, the hash puzzle difficulty was increasing. Why? Because there are more nodes competing to solve the puzzle. And in order to maintain the time of 10 minutes for block, the protocol is slowly increasing the difficulty as nodes are increased. And these people are also miners. So anyone who is maintaining a node is called as a miner. These are people are also having, so 50, 50, 50. Imagine this 50 came here. Next block is added by this person. Another block added by this node, so on and so on. Now, there are some people. Now, the first real world transaction of Bitcoin happened in somewhere 2012. Till that time, from 2009 to 2012, only few general public, community, some techies maintained nodes. And you know what? At that time, your conventional PC, your laptop is enough to maintain a node in Bitcoin network. Anyways, today it's not possible, because the puzzle difficulty increased so much that you need to maintain high performance computers as nodes. But at that time, it is just an application downloaded, and whenever your PC is up, it is solving the puzzle, mining it. But what happened after some time, there are few people who got excited of this, and people started accepting bitcoins into their wallet. So now imagine a person one who is maintaining the first node has a wallet. By using his private key, by taking the public key, he signed the coins which he owns and he transferred it. That is when first transaction happened. So slowly these miners started selling the coins, selling or buying something for the coins, whatever it is. But miners are the first wallets which gets the coins, new coins first. And miners transact with general public, either by selling the coins who want to buy bitcoins, or by buying something and giving bitcoins as a transfer of value. So slowly over a period of time, it is not dummy blocks, but few transactions are also got added. So slowly bit reward is 50 coin, and slowly as people started using it, some transactions happening on the network, and all these transactions are getting validated by all the nodes, and any node which solves the puzzle will add the block and it will get the reward, and so on and so forth. Like that, now in Bitcoin we have around 6 lakh blocks. Okay, so there are a couple of questions which came up. I'll answer them. No, the old nodes using the public key and private key, they can install the same client application, log into other system. See, for example, you used your laptop to log into Gmail. You bought a new phone. So will you throw your laptop? Not required. You can install Gmail in your mobile phone. You can install it. So with same infrastructure, I mean with same public and private key, you can install. But the point is, two nodes with same public key and private key not possible. Okay, so what is the dashboard to watch the transactions like Satoshi Nakamoto? So that's a very good question. Okay, there is no dashboard to only Satoshi Nakamoto. Even today you can see the first block. Are you excited? Do you want to see that? Do you want to see the first block on Bitcoin? Interested? I'll show you right away. Bitcoin is a public blockchain. So all the transactions can be viewed by any public. But the only thing is you don't know who did those transactions. Because every wallet or every miner is identified by public and private key, which are hexadecimal numbers. Today in Bitcoin, the recent or the latest block is 6,44,260 blocks. So far, these many blocks are being maintained by all the nodes in the network. And do you want to see the first block? Just click on fun, search, that's it. This is the first block. And this is the hash of the block. This is the timestamp of the block. When did that happen? September 1st, 2009 is the first block got added. What is the difficulty of hash puzzle? Only one. Number of transactions? Only one. Do you know what is that one transaction? New coins getting generated and transferred to wallet of that particular node. So let's look at that. What is the block reward? 50 BTC. There is no transaction fees yet because there are no transactions between users. No users at all in first block. See, this is hash of this particular transaction. And Coinbase is protocol driven. Okay, Coinbase is with protocol. So the protocol creates new 50 BTC and it transferred to this account. And this is the account. This is the address. So these are the transactions which are done by this account. So you can see everything is public, but you don't know who owns this. Okay, next. What is the reward here? 50 BTC. Let's go to some 2000 or 3000 blocks. Let's see if there are some transactions. No. See, even 3000, 4000, no transactions. Let's go somewhere 50,000. See, initially the value of BTC is almost zero, right? Because there are no nodes which are maintained, not multiple nodes. So people didn't trust it or didn't value it. See, 50,000 also no. 2010 April, no transactions, nothing. It is one account which is getting all BTC. Now let's put 1,50,000. Okay, nice. Though, so there are some network which happened. So in 2011, what happened? There are around 10 transactions. How many? 10 transactions. And what is the block reward? 50 BTC. But the beauty is in Bitcoin, the users can decide the transaction fee. Such a wonderful thing, right? You can transfer freely without any fee. But over a period of time, as more transactions are happening, in order to make the node to select your transaction with priority, you can add little transaction fee. That is as a tip, but not as a compulsion. Now let's look at 2,10,001. The block reward got halved. Okay, so I hope. Hello. Yeah. Okay. So sorry, I got a call. So yeah, so who will decide fee reward? Come on here, I told you already protocol. How to find Satoshi? Why do you want to get some Bitcoins? You can't find. Even who don't know who has that, who is Satoshi. Okay. Do you remember your transaction number? No. If you want, you can do a transaction to me. I will check and give my transaction number. Okay. There is no faked transaction because these transactions or this data is retrieved from multiple nodes in the network. So for a given transaction, if you click on it, okay, you can see the public address and private address on this network. You can't duplicate a wallet at all. It is impossible to duplicate a wallet or to duplicate a public address on blockchain, because only the people with private key can log in and can look at the transactions of them. Okay, so don't see, all those checks are always there. Whatever checks you usually have with your general banking, in addition to that, this is a decentralized network. Those basic checks are there. Same person or same public address, two people, not possible. Same public address, two private keys, not possible. Okay, so those are basic things. Okay, sorry, if transactions haven't been made, what will the miner validate and get reward? See, solving the puzzle is proof of work. You have done a computation work and you will get the reward. That's it. Validating the transactions is one of the important aspect, but still solving the puzzle is what which brings the reward. Okay, but I'll tell you how this puzzle and transactions and block is related. Okay, I will explain you step by step. Okay, then you will understand how this puzzle is related to block, how block is related to these transactions and all. Okay, so for a block addition we give 50 bitcoins, so a block can have almost 50 transactions. Who said that? Not necessarily. Who said that? Without transactions also few 50 bitcoins will be created. The generation of bitcoins is dependent on protocol and puzzle, not on how many transactions you are validating. Okay, remember this. Okay, my block number, my transactions. Come on here, I never mined bitcoins. Okay, I own bitcoins, but not, I never mined bitcoins. Okay, who maintains this website? General public again, not Satoshi. Okay, good question. If 21 million is max of protocol, then how will nodes get rewarded? The transaction fees. Slowly over a period of time, transaction fees is being added. And you know what? In 2140 year, in the year of 2140, that is when 21 million circulation will come into force. After that, there won't be any new coins. By that time, the value of Bitcoin will be so high that little transaction fee like 0.1, 0.2 will be enough to maintain the nodes. Okay, so don't worry about rewards, because let me show you the recent, for example, recent transaction. See, the value of Bitcoin now is $12,229. Okay, let's look at the recent block. See, what is a block reward? 6.25 BTC. What is the fee reward? 1.04 BTC. $12,000, man, the transaction fee reward. And each transaction has given a little transaction fee. Okay, how many transactions? 2,583 transactions were validated. And they gave 1 BTC. $12,000 is approximately 9 lakhs. 9 lakhs is given as a reward. So with time, even the reward goes down, fee will be enough. Yes, you can own a wallet without node. You are called as a user. That's it. Will increase in nodes increase transaction time? Yes, of course. But within 10 minutes, if your transaction is selected in the transaction pool, within 10 minutes, it will be solved. It will be confirmed. What is the size of the protocol and where it was executed? Okay, that means still 21 millions is not reached. Yes. Today we have only 18.4 million BTC in circulation. If we add fee, what all differences between third-party banks and blockchain? Here you are adding as a tip, and you will be adding as a little also. Okay. If you're doing an international bank transfer, 3 to 5% you need to lose for transaction fee, and on conversion fee also you will be losing. So for every dollar you will be losing 2 rupees, which is approximately 4%. But in BTC, there is no conversion fee because BTC is global currency. Second, the transaction fee is typically 0.7, 0.6%. Okay. Without creating a node, how can we have a wallet? Okay. My straight answer to it, Navya, is, does a bank employee or a RBI employee has a bank account? Yes. As a citizen, do we have a bank account? Yes. So every node has a wallet, or you can have only wallet as a user also. You need not work for RBI if you want to have a bank account, right? So don't worry. How blockchain.com knows all transactions in Bitcoin? Every blockchain network will have a API, and through API, the data will be fetched onto web. How to become a user? Go to MetaMask. There are many blockchain wallets you can create. It is as easy as creating a Gmail account. Okay, guys. So let's catch up tomorrow. I see a lot of questions. That means it is very interesting for you. Okay. That means I'm explaining good. So I'm just kidding. Let's catch up tomorrow at 3:30 back. I'll answer more questions tomorrow. Okay, Jagan Garu, thank you for hosting. Jagan Garu?